who were in the first one that are in the second, and all of a sudden, like.
All right, let's call this meeting to order. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
But I'm just going to wrap this up.
Ready to call the roll? All right, Clerk Tamer, call the roll, please.
Nudera.
Here.
Park.
Here.
Conquest.
Here.
Estido.
Here.
Mulliner.
Here.
Brennan.
Here.
Verimas.
Here.
Deuter.
Here.
Dunn.
Here.
Hill.
Here.
Kolumsky.
Here.
Jensen. Paludo.
Here.
Cahill.
Here.
14 present, 0 absent.
14 present, 0 absent. We have a quorum. The governor of the state of Illinois has declared a gubernatorial disaster proclamation in response to the COVID-19 outbreak, and all of the city of Elmhurst is covered by the disaster area. In light of the ongoing COVID-19 outbreak, the mayor of the city of Elmhurst has determined that an in-person meeting for the November 22, 2021 committee of the whole meeting may not be practical or prudent in light of the disaster. All of the aldermen of the City Council participating in the November 22, 2021 Committee of the Whole meeting, wherever their physical location, shall be verified and determined that they can hear one another and can hear all discussion and testimony during the meeting. We are all here. Can you all hear me? All right. Is there anyone here for public comment? Or Clerk Tamer, is anyone signed up for public comment?
No, Mayor.
All right. I don't see anyone in the audience. We are on item 3. Can I have a motion for approval of the November 8, 2021 Committee of the Whole minutes? Alderman Park, second by Alderman Verimas. I think we could, let's just do a roll call on these.
Okay. Nudera.
Aye.
Park.
Aye.
Conquest.
Aye.
Estido.
Aye.
Mulliner.
Aye.
Brennan.
Aye.
Verimas.
Aye.
Deuter.
Aye.
Dunn.
Aye.
Hill.
Aye.
Kolumsky.
Aye.
Jensen. Toledo.
Aye.
Cahill.
Aye.
14 ayes, 0 nays.
14 ayes, 0 nays. The November 8th minutes are approved. May I have a motion to approve the November 15, 2021 Committee of the Whole minutes? Alderman Nudera, second Alderman Deuter. I should ask, any discussion on the minutes? All right. Call the roll, please.
Nudera.
Aye.
Park.
Aye.
Conquest.
Aye.
Estido.
Aye.
Mulliner.
Aye.
Brennan.
Aye.
Verimas.
Aye.
Deuter.
Aye.
Dunn.
Aye.
Hill.
Aye.
Kolumsky.
Aye.
Jensen.
Aye.
Toledo.
Aye.
Cahill.
Aye.
14 ayes, 0 nays.
14 ayes, 0 nays. The November 15th, 2021 minutes are approved. On to item 4, business before the committee, which is the continued review of the fiscal year 2022 budget. City Manager, do you have anything you want to lead off with before we go into the budget?
No, well, yes, sorry.
Okay, so we have a couple possible answers. Go ahead.
Other than, we're hoping to get through this tonight. We have a few of the department budgets to get through that Assistant Manager Cop will do, and then between Ryan and myself, get through the agency funds. And then we have the circle back items, and we hope to do that so that we can keep on track for a December 6th consideration at City Council.
All right. Well, as Alderman Mulliner was mentioned, we seem to be going at record speed here. So if you're ready, we'll go right into the Planning, Zoning, and Economic Development section. Is that where you want to commence? Yes. City Manager.
All right, our Planning and Zoning Division provides assistance to the Zoning Planning Commission, the Development Planning and Zoning Committee, and the City Council for applications for zoning relief and amendments to the comprehensive plan. In 2021, we processed 23 cases for conditional use, text amendment, and variations, and began facilitating the update to our 1992 zoning ordinance. They also worked with the engineering department for the adoption and facilitated an adoption of the bike and pedestrian plan. And for the first half of the year, oversaw and organized the code enforcement due to the hiring freeze and retirement of our lead code enforcement officer. And we're also been working with the Business Development Coordinator to talk about the expanded outdoor dining. I know that we're collecting information from the Economic Development Commission, City Center, other businesses, and in fact, Business Development Coordinator Jason just put a survey out in the last few days to try to get some input on parklets from all aspects of businesses, not just restaurants or and through all different business park areas also. So hopefully we'll bring some information back to the DPZ, which is an outstanding referral on that to help the DPZ Committee and City Council determine the future of the outdoor dining and the possibility of parklets. Line item 3052 is our professional services, and that includes the completion of the comprehensive review of the update the zoning ordinance, as well as future planning for the business parks and updating our subdivision ordinance. Subdivision ordinance is like a companion document to our zoning ordinance, and the last time it was updated was in 1993 for a comprehensive update. So we're going to look at getting our zoning ordinance done and then also doing the subdivision ordinance. I talked about the zoning ordinance. That was, we started that pre-pandemic, and then when the pandemic hit, not knowing what the fiscal aspects of the pandemic were, we put that on hold. And in 2021, we brought it back again. We're at the point now where the consultant has done a tech report on it, and we're scheduling a meeting right now for the DPZ committee and the Zoning and Planning Commission to all meet at one time to take a look at the tech report and make sure we're on the right track and to continue to move it forward. I mean, looking at that ordinance, some of the things like the use list are one of the things that we're going to look at to try to make it more user-friendly and intuitive. Right now, if you read our zoning ordinance, if you're really not familiar with it, sometimes it's hard to navigate your way through that. I mean, our use list, back in 1992, there were, no doggy daycares, but there were still video stores, and those are still in our use list. Video stores still use list. So updating that, make it a more general, and then to try to make it more user-friendly and intuitive. Also, line item 6045, public information programming. That line item is really more administered by our business development coordinator than our city planner. And that's doing programs like our commercial real estate brokers. And then we started that Makers and Shakers entrepreneurial event, but that got held off because of the pandemic. So you look, there was a slight increase in that line item too, and that's to get it back to the pre-pandemic levels and to continue doing that economic development marketing. It's also some of our, like the Elmhurst Loves Local program, the Elmhurst Loves Local, the new bingo program that's on, that all runs through that office, the Business Development Coordinator's office too, and that's part of that line item. Other than that, I'd be glad to answer any questions on the planning and zoning.
Alderman Brennan.
Thank you, Mayor. Page 116, line item 3052.
Yes.
If you mentioned this, I apologize, I didn't hear it. What is, the last 2 years, we've had a lot of, contractual professional services assistance there?
So that's our update of our zoning ordinance. It's, if any kind of TIF studies we do on that, it's also in there. The subdivision ordinance is going to be updated in there. We also have some money in there to do sub-area planning too. So areas, we've done a bunch of the areas where they're in a comprehensive plan, but maybe looking at some different areas right now, like maybe the Spring Road District or something like that, where there's funds in there to continue to do our planning and updating our comprehensive plan.
And so that's going to go for 3 years? It looks like we're spending similar amounts this year.
Right, and so, I think is what's happening is some of the cost of the consulting fees to update some of our plans. And it's just a continuation to continue updating our planning. I know that was one of the things that years ago sort of fell off the table, and we brought it back and continue to keep that line item pretty much going strong now, other than we saw it during the pandemic years, it dropped down too, but it's just the updating of some of our older plans.
So we have it projected out in 2023 as well. At some point, does this come to a close, though, as far as the updates?
It'll come down, but I don't think it'll ever come to a close, per se. Some of the larger ones, like I said, the zoning ordinance, subdivision ordinance, plan development ordinance, those are all some of the larger ones right now that are coming through, but I don't foresee it ever coming to like a close. There'll always be like TIF studies to be done. There'll always be some kind of update to the comprehensive plan that we'll want to look at specific areas.
Okay, fair enough. Thank you.
Mayor, if I can add to that, I think one of the strengths in Elmhurst, why we're so successful, is because we do the planning. I've heard mayors say that in the past. and present, that's really one of the strengths, because we're prepared when people come to us and say, this is what we're thinking about doing, and we say, okay, great, here's what we want you to do, and we're able to work with the developers based on that.
Additional discussion? I will add that, in very recent planning cases, I've heard people say, well, but you're quoting from a plan that's 5 years ago, so that is one of the reasons we try to keep it update, so that they'll say, but that's from last year, and we're prepared. All right. Any questions generally on planning, zoning, economic development? All right. We'll move on then. Page 128 to 130, Public Works Administration.
All right. I think we're at 122 or 123 building.
Can you repeat that?
123 to 124 building department.
Did I miss something there?
I don't know, you on the,
Pardon me?
You looking at board docs?
It's on board docs updated.
I thought I printed it out, but we'll go with what you have.
okay.
Go ahead.
Building, through October 2020, 2021, community development is issued more than 5,100 permits, up slightly from 2020 with a total construction value of about $120 million. Permit fees collected through October 2021 is about $2.7 million, up about $200,000 from 2020. We performed more than 9,000 inspections, and our code enforcement officers have performed more than 1,700 inspections and sent out over 900 code violations. Up to this point this year, we've issued 84 new home permits compared to 47 last year, and we currently have 16 new single-family home plans in the plan review process. So if those would all get issued by the end of the year, we'll have somewhere between probably 90 and 100 permits this year. Also, the community development processes our check valve program and our overhead sewer program. This year, we had 10 check valves installed and 6, which brings that to 241 homes since the inception of it, and 6 new overhead sewers, which brings 191 homes into that. So well over 400 homes that have been now protected from sanitary backups. We expect similar brisk construction activity, not only residential, but also commercial. Some of the projects that we're planning to be completed this year will be the McMaster Carr, 400,000 square foot addition, the Malto property, which is the old Caterpillar property, which is about 430 total square feet of new industrial building, the old Keebler site, which is about 150,000 square feet, and then on Riverside Drive, another 182,000 square feet where the Keefe property was. Also, in mid-2021, we filled a building commissioner's position upon retirement of our building commissioner, and we hired a new lead and code enforcement officer, which was been vacant for over a year. With these 2 positions filled, we continue to evaluate the operation of code enforcement, and we would bring in that back to the DPZ committee based on a referral for code enforcement. But one thing I wanted to draw your attention to was line item 3092. We did add money in that line item for the opportunity to do so if the committee chooses to do so and the city council chooses to do so, was to hire some contract staffing for code enforcement through our busiest time of the year, which is like the spring and early summer. So we've added money in that line item to do that once we go back to the committee if they choose to do that. Other than that, I'd be glad to answer any questions.
Okay, I'm back on the right agenda now. Alderman Dunn.
Yeah, 2 quick questions. So that contract staffing line that you just mentioned, 3092, it's running about $15,000 a year. What's usually the fines collected for that line item? Do you have any estimate of what they generally generate? If any? It's just more
It's
warnings.
minimal. It's more about compliance than it is about fining with the code enforcement. I don't know what our revenues are. A lot of that contract staffing there right now is not for code enforcement. It's more of like some of our building inspectors that we hire, or if there's specialty plan reviews that we need done, we'll hire that, or we've used that in the past when we got behind in plan reviews. We'll sometimes hire a contract plan reviewer to come in and help us with specific plans.
So that's my second question. And a couple years ago in our budget discussions, we had to talk about the length of time it was taking to issue permits, and it was up over a month at that point. We committed to have more resources, contract brought in, contract support. What are we at now with that backlog?
A new home permit's probably 4 to 6 weeks, which, I mean, I think when we were talking about last time was closer probably to 6 to 8 weeks. Some of the short term, we've did some new operational review as far as how we do our process now is for more of the short term, like you want to do a patio, you want to do a pool, you want to do things of that nature. What we do, I mean, we're calling it the red dot process. Within 24 hours of an application coming in, we review it to make sure that at least it's all there. Because now, especially now with like patios and stuff like that, there's engineering involved where in the past there wasn't because of our stormwater issues, if you're adding impervious surface. So we're at least going through them right away to say, hey, you're missing something here.
Right.
And so make sure you get that in, rather than waiting a couple weeks and then reviewing it and then calling the resident and saying, hey, you know what, you didn't put your engineering stuff in. And then it's another 2 weeks for it to come back in or whatever it would be. So some of that, they're much expedited now as it was before as far as like the shorter term ones. But the single family home ones are going pretty steady. I know in engineering, we have a contract engineer that comes in on a regular basis to help us with the engineering side of the new single family homes also, mostly because of the stormwater issues that are part of the application process now.
Okay, thanks.
Other discussion? I will say, one of the issues that I talked to city staff was about this because in the 6th Ward in particular, there was one incident, and we had one in the 5th Ward that I'm thinking of where people were getting quite frustrated that we didn't have the staffing to get out and quickly address building code concerns, the code enforcement. So this will allow us to respond more quickly. And I hope to take the burden off the aldermen who get the repeated phone calls and acting as the intercessors going back and forth between the city. If we have these resources to address it, it'll stop the back and forth between the aldermen and the staff. We can get someone out there who can handle it. So I'm hopeful that will have the desired effect. Anything else on the building department? All right, cable television, 161.
Real quick on that, our revenues in here show $1,000 for code enforcement fines.
Okay.
The cable TV, this is one of our more visible communication channels. It's administered by our communications manager. She worked closely with the filming crews to make sure that we're doing the right things, filming the right things, and trying to keep that content for Elmhurst TV fresh. We're also continuing to work with Comcast to get the Channel 6 programming in City Hall. And there's some equipment that's got to be done. Our IT director's been working with Comcast to get that done. We're hopefully in 2022 we'll have the opportunity to do that programming. That's part of the program is going to be allowing this cable TV or this filming, these PSAs, and we look at different businesses, different programming that's going on, different events, and get those filmed and get those on Channel 6 as well as Elmhurst TV.
Discussion? Alderman Brennan?
Thank you. So line item 3052. So this last year, we had budgeted 100K. We're forecasting or estimating 60K. Was this COVID related? Did something not get done as a result of COVID?
We didn't do as much programming. We just watched it closer. We said, do we have to do this year? No, let's wait and see what happens with the budget. And so we sort of just purposely cut it back, yes.
Okay, thank you.
The city, Mr. Kopp, did this also cover events? I thought this was filming of events.
Right, so that didn't happen.
So they weren't, so
right,
other
so like
people
St.
weren't
Patrick's
having
Day
events,
parade
and we weren't filming the events that didn't happen.
Got it.
So very budget conscious, yeah. Other questions, discussion on cable television? All right, very good. Visitor and tourism, 162, 163.
In the forefront of our visitor and tourism marketing efforts is the Explore Elmhurst campaign. In 2022, we plan on giving that a new look and redeveloped Explore Elmhurst website and visitors guide. That budget line item was increased, and that was to be able to redevelop this and refresh Explore Elmhurst. The Visitors Guide also is distributed in Chicagoland area hotels, real estate offices, Elmhurst newcomers get in museums, offices, library, and more. It's a great resource for discovering what there is to do in Elmhurst. And that's line item 6045. And we showed an increase on that to allow us to refresh Elmhurst, the exploreelmhurst.com. That's also on that website. That's part of our update on the website too, which we talked about earlier. It's in the IT budget, but that's one of the websites that we're going to try to collaborate all 4 of our websites into a more consistent, cohesive websites. Line item 3098, that's the Explore Elmhurst Express Trolley, which is not what happened in the last couple of years because of the COVID-19. It's the Holly Trolley starting this Saturday. We're running it for 4 Saturdays from 10 to 10 and hope to bring it back next year. There's a slight increase on that just due to operational costs of running the trolley. 6032 is the community grant program, which is facilitated by our communications manager, and there's a city employee group that they review and interview all the applicants and make recommendations to the Public Affairs and Safety Committee and the City Council. Let's see, Public Information Programming, 6045. Also, it's events marketing, like I talked about the Explore Elmhurst branding, visitors guide. Also, a couple things that are also ran through our communications manager, but they're actually in the admin budget. I just want to mention real quick. One is the Elmhurst Connect app, which we'll continue to market in 2022. Right now, we have over 1,600 people signed up for it. We've had over 3,300 requests this year for it. And also in that, in the admin budget is also the citizen survey, which we plan on doing this year. It took a time off due to COVID, and so we want to bring it back in this year, and there's money in the admin budget to do that. We've used that in the past to evaluate and analyze our programs and services, and have relied on that a lot in the past for setting our strategic goals. So we're planning on doing that this year. Other than that, I'd answer any questions.
All right, discussion? Alderman Brennan.
Sorry, Mayor.
No, that's good.
So Elmhurst Connect, did you say 600 users?
1,600 people have
Oh,
signed up for it, and we've had
okay.
3,300 requests for service.
1,600 is better than 600, but it's a great app. I mean, we definitely need to get usage up on that. It's very informative. So whatever we need to do, I'm a supporter.
Right.
I can be the poster child.
You gotta be kind
We've had a lot of good feedback on it.
What's that? Yeah, exactly. What's that?
We've had a lot of good feedback on it.
Oh, it's
just
great,
to,
yeah.
People aware of when something's happened, they get the emails back, it's been taken care of, or what the process is, which it wasn't really known before.
Yep.
Other discussion? All right, and we will be featuring Elmhurst Connects and our other communication tools in the next front porch, because I think people don't realize we have about 5 or 6 different things that residents can sign up for to both get news and different levels of news and notifications like that in the Water Smart program. So that'll be in the next front porch. All right, we'll move on to tax increment financing, pages 226 through 253.
Thank you, Mayor. As you said, we'll start on page 228 with TIF 1, which is still in existence because there are funds that remain in the account, and that is for the new Homestar project, the corner of Addison and 2nd. And we're still working with them. They have an obligation to start a project, and there's some environmental cleanup there as well. And so we're continuing to work with them. on that project.
When is their deadline? What's their current
April of next year.
to start? Thank you. Any other questions on this? Continue then.
Thank you. Then we'll turn to page 233, which is TIF 3, and like TIF 1, this has expired, but there are funds that remain in the account, which will be used for the Utley Storm Pump Station. And so that project is starting up, and as soon as that's expended, we will no longer have this account, but for now, we keep that in place.
Discussion or questions? All right. Next one, city manager.
Next is page 239, 240, which is TIF 4. That's the North York TIF. We have typical expenditures in here, professional services for any planning or analysis that we need, the developer incentive programs. There is the city center pass-through of 14.5, which is part of that SSA TIF arrangement. We have some roadway improvements, the facade renovation program, and then the big one on is the principal line of credit. That's the pay down that letter of credit, which we have used in the past.
Discussion. Alderman Dunn.
So, yeah, TIF 4, I think the property purchase in that plan, it's been there for a few years. What's the probability that we're gonna be?
Are you on a certain line? Page?
Well,
Or page?
I'm talking in general, I don't even know where it is. Pretty sure there's a property, a capital outlay.
We don't have anything scheduled in TIF 4 for property purchase. We do in TIF 5.
Oh,
and
I'm
TIF
sorry, yeah, all right, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, but if something were to
My
come up,
question for TIF 5,
if something were to come up in TIF 4 that where it became available, certainly we would work however we could to make that happen.
All right. Other discussion? Alderman Brennan? Oh, no. On to TIF 5.
This is page 246. Again, like TIF 4, we have some planning, consulting fees, incentive programs. Here's where we do have some property land acquisition scheduled. We continue to work on that. Unfortunately, we're not having the success that we had hoped, but certainly if we want to talk more detail, we can do that in the next closed session. And then under other public improvements, I would draw your attention to that. That is for the Walnut, the Lake Street Walnut Force Main work that's happening. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
Discussion?
One question, the,
Alderman Dunn?
what kind of EAV increase do we think we're going to see with the development of the property at Grand
Molto
and Lake?
property?
Yeah.
Mike, do you have that? I think we're going to have to get back to you on that, Alderman. We don't have that number here with us, and we want to make sure we're as accurate as possible.
You can let me know whenever it's convenient. No big deal.
Okay.
All right, back to you, city manager.
Thank you. Turning to page 252, the downtown redevelopment TIF. Again, professional services for any analysis that we need, incentives, leasehold improvements on the property that the city owns on Addison, which ties into 60-69 property management services. We do have, again, property or land acquisition possibilities in TIF 6 that we've talked to the council about. Of course, the Metro Station upgrade project. And I believe a couple meetings ago, somebody asked about Metro ridership, and I didn't have a good answer. But since then, we found some information where Metra is forecasting passenger trips to rise to 22 million by the end of next year and to 37 million by the end of 2023. Of course, that's system-wide. That would still only be 65% of pre-pandemic levels. So it's a very slow comeback for Metro ridership.
All right, discussion on TIF 4. Alderman Dunn.
Just wondering on the utility relocation 80-25, that was, I guess, scheduled this year. We weren't able to do it. What time frame are we expecting for that? And has it gone up in cost?
Well, we did go out for some bids on that, and it did come out way more than we had planned it to be, but we were restricted by the contractors we could go out to bid for, so we're working on getting that changed. And also, we're still trying to work on the needed easements, and so there's been some issues with getting the needed easements to allow us to underground all the utilities in that alleyway. If we can't get the easements, we're only able to do about a half of the alley. So we're just still working on that with the city attorney and the private property owner.
Which half would we do?
The southern half.
Just for the new people, which alley are we talking about?
Between Second and Third and York and Addison, behind the new projects, Lennar and 195 project.
Alderman Toledo.
Thank you. I don't see any assumptions in this for anything to do with the Ryan project that is being currently going through the zoning and planning process. Either sale of a piece of property and or any implications for the TIF. Is that just normal operating procedure when we kind of don't know, just kind of leave it all out?
Yes, for when this came into the process and where we were in the budget. We didn't have those assumptions necessarily, not knowing, as an example for the property sale, if that would be used as an incentive or not. So we don't want to put something in here that may not be true. We'd rather be conservative and see that revenue come in.
Yep. Okay. Thank you.
Other discussion? All right, thank you. I believe that's the last of the TIFs. So bond and interest funds 258.
Thank you. Actually, I would ask you to turn to page 261. That's a schedule of our bond payments for the next year. Happy to answer any questions.
Discussion? All right. Trust and agency funds, page 262 through 276.
Yes, thank you. So that starts with the fire pension fund budget, leads into the police pension fund budget. I don't know if there's any questions on those two. I would add that we have been working with the consolidation, state consolidation of those funds. Both of them, Ryan, are tied up in lawsuits?
The lawsuits related to the police side.
Okay, so there's a lawsuit on the police side as far as the constitutionality of doing this. So we're waiting for that to come out. Those funds are on hold as far as pulling them together, but we have been with fire and pension funds working on that.
All right, questions or discussion? City Treasurer.
Curious on the methodology on some of these items that would have been appearing in the Lauterbach and Ammon actuary reports for looking out a couple years in advance, and I know there's a bit of a lag here. Is that report considered when making these budgets?
I'm going to ask Ryan to answer that one, Treasurer.
Yeah, Treasurer, are you referring to any specific line item or just in general? We do take into account and base the numbers based off of the actuary reports. I mean, to broadly answer your question, and it's part of the process as we're projecting the property tax levies as a whole and going through that process with the Finance Committee.
Sure. Yeah. Just saw a slight difference from the projections in the report to these, but it seemed like that was what was happening. Just was curious if that was actually the case. Thank you.
All right, other discussion? All right.
Sorry.
Wake up. I think so, yeah.
Next is the Gloss Museum Fund, or the Gloss Mausoleum Fund, excuse me. That piece of property is owned by the city. It is maintained by the Park District. We do maintain some funds in the event that there is work needed to be done on that. Otherwise, we work with the Park District on an as-needed basis.
Any questions or discussion? All right, on to the next one.
And then the last is the Working Cash Fund, where we keep that balance of $1 million to be used as needed. Happy to answer any questions.
Glad to see that we're at the $1 million mark on that one. Any other question or discussions? Discussion, I should say. All right. I believe that will then bring us to the circle back items.
Yes, sir. We posted a memo earlier today regarding the circlebacks, so that is on board docs as well. How would you like to handle this, Mayor?
Well, I think what we usually do is, and since we are ahead of schedule, I'll suggest we'll just kind of read the topic of each one without reading it, and then we'll see if the alderman who had the circle back has any additional concerns, or if anyone else does. I think that's how we've handled it in the past. So we'll start with item circle back 1, general fund license and permit revenues. That was by Alderman Palumsky. Have any follow-up, Alderman Palumsky?
No, thank you.
All right. Anyone else have any questions on item 1? Item 2, Alderman Brennan inquired about overall budget expenditures and risk of inflation. Alderman Brennan, do you have any additional concerns?
Excuse me, I actually did not look at that item, Mayor.
I can offer an explanation. So in a lot of the contract items, we did build in some sort of inflationary number to what we could tell in talking to our counterparts or material suppliers. Otherwise, we did not build in an inflation number. We didn't want to really build up the budget too much in that situation. But if inflation does become significant, then we would have to reevaluate budget expenditures and cut back to make sure that that's balanced.
So where we have visibility into a project, it's most likely factored into that project in some way.
That's correct.
All right, thank you.
All right. Alderman Brennan, if you think of something else, we can pick it up at the end of this.
Thank you.
All right. Item 3 was the miles on average put on city fire engines and the cost of replacement for fire apparatus. Alderman Nudera, do you have any additional questions on this?
No, I don't.
All right, and Alderman Dunn, did you have any additional questions on the replacement costs?
I do not.
All right, anybody else? I think I hear a fire truck. All right.
Right on time.
Item 4, general fund revenue for fire protection services. Alderman Deuter, do you have additional questions on this one?
You know, I think this answers the question about the protection districts. I do have a question just about the Superior line. So it says, and this is just looking at the memo itself, it says, it shows 200,000 for the Superior Ambulance Metro Paramedics annual reimbursement. Is that but it's shown as an expense, so that's what we pay, and then we know that a significant portion of that ends up being reimbursed at the end of the year?
So the reimbursement is an estimate based on years past, not related at all to what we pay. That's already structured in our agreement with Superior, that we pay X amount per month to build up to that 900,000. This was I thought this was a revenue line item, wasn't it?
Say that again?
This was a revenue line item, number 4?
Yes, now it makes sense. I was actually looking for it in this part of the budget, and I couldn't find the line item. Thank you, you're right.
And the other 2 lines are what the fire protection districts are paying us.
Correct.
Yep, thank you.
All right, anyone else have a question on item 4, circle back 4? All right, we'll go to circle back item 5, police department staffing, technology, and equipment. Alderman Honquist, do you have additional discussion on this one?
I don't. Thank you.
No? All right, anyone else have questions on circle back 5? All right, circle back 6.
Yes.
This is a question about fleet management of our police vehicles. Alderman Hill, did you have any additional questions on this?
This is good, Mayor. Thank you.
All right, anyone else on circle back 6? All right, circle back 7, question about whether we do lateral transfers into our police department. Alderman Toledo, do you have additional questions?
Not at this time, thank you.
All right, anyone else on item 7? All right, move on to item 8. An issue regarding data processing trend lines across the various departments. Alderman Toledo, additional questions here?
All good.
All good? Anyone else? All right, we'll move on to item 9, Finance Department salaries and contract staffing. Alderman Dunn, do you have additional questions on this?
Well, we've been reviewing this on a regular basis in committee, and I think according to this budget, we're planning on a contract position. Obviously, that's very high compared to the wages full-time for both the director and the assistant director, which ends up being a $43,000 increase over the previous year budget. But we are looking also to hire full-time. So just to clarify, the budget is 2 contract positions, director and assistant director. That's what's in the budget, but it could be superseded by hiring full-timers.
Right, and for those not in the Finance Committee, we had, you'll recall, we had a proposal to contract out for those, and we're at the point now where we're exploring both hiring full-time people or contracting, and maybe one could be one and one the other, which I hope will be resolved shortly. Other discussion on circle back 9? All right, circle back 10, question about the seniors taxi subsidy. Alderman Deuter, has your question been answered?
Yes, and
right.
thanks for bringing that information, the additional information to committee. We'll take it whenever you're ready.
All right, anyone else have questions on circle back 10? No. Circle back 11, Alderman Molnar asked about parkway trees. Has your question been answered?
My question's answered. I just wanted to make sure that the public and everybody knew that the number of trees that we had 10 years ago is pretty much equal to the number of trees we have today. And if we had done last year's schedule, we would have been almost exactly equal. So that people know we're not losing trees, we're trying to replace as they're coming down.
Thank you, Alderman Molnar. Anyone else on Circle Back 11? Circle Back 12 is about Public Works, Forestry Department, landscaping, maintenance, project priorities. Alderman Toledo, you have additional questions on this?
Yeah, can I get the page number so I don't have to look up the general ledger number for this line item or the circle back?
Yes.
Is it under forestry,
It is,
137?
yes, that's page 138. 137 and 138.
All right,
Alderman
so,
Toledo, yep.
And it is line item
3034.
3034.
so it's in that number, that 317?
Correct.
Okay, and so, sorry, I didn't realize that this memo was posted, so I'm just reading through the memo. It says it includes, the 2022 budget includes 90,000 related to City Hall landscaping, and the KEB includes 50,000 in 2023, and then another 50,000 in 2024 for First Street landscaping. And you responded saying that it's possible to move the First Street landscape planning project up 1 year, shifting the 90,000 for the City Hall landscape improvements to First Street in 2022, I assume. If we want to continue to fund City Hall landscape improvements, we can fund that from the downtown TIF. So my question would be, if I want to support that recommendation on that circle back item, do we need to do a motion to change the budget?
We would.
Okay.
And, I appreciate that maybe everyone wasn't, ready to go on this, so we are ahead of schedule, so we can certainly do another, I'm not sure if we need it, but if people are ready to discuss it, we can. I don't know if we'll have other, does anyone else anticipate having a motion regarding the budget or want to hold it over one more meeting? No. All right, so maybe yours is the one, so if you want to proceed, go ahead, Alderman Toledo.
Yeah, well, I mean, I obviously didn't have a chance to talk to anybody on the council about this, but hopefully so that we can have some discussion, I would like to ask if someone would, I would like to make a motion to amend the 2022 budget. Let's see, I don't know exactly how to say it, line item 3034, it wouldn't really have to change. I guess it would have to, the number doesn't have to change even. Let me ask staff, what do I need to do here?
Yeah, it would be a motion to redirect the funds to First Street versus the City Hall project.
Okay. And then with a follow-up motion potentially, if the council would like to discuss whether or not to fund the landscaping here through TIF, would that be a separate motion?
Yes, if we wanted to do it this year, again, we can, I think part of your question was, do we want to
Right, so now I'm just
improve
asking
landscaping?
procedurally, should they be two separate motions? We can handle one question first and then discuss the second question
Yes.
separately?
It may be, because we're not changing the budget.
Not changing any accounts
Yeah.
or funding, it would just be the purpose of that
And
funding.
it may be something, and I will suggest this to you, that maybe goes through Public Works to, instead of doing this on the fly when we don't really go through generally in the budget and direct within the lines where it's going. We're just passing the total. So instead of doing this on the fly, it might be better to leave the budget as it is and put in a referral to, through Public Works to change how it's done. Because it's not really on our agenda tonight to talk about the anything other than budget, I would say.
Mayor, can I ask a question?
Sure, Alderman Deuter.
Just in terms of would it even need a referral, it seems to me that it would come to committee when there's a contract to do some work, right? I mean, this is a project that's been discussed, it's been in the KEB, so it's really a matter of, staff teeing up a project to bring it forward. I agree, I don't know if it needs a change to the budget, and I'm not even sure if it would need a referral to have that project brought forward.
Well, currently, the staff's proposal is to fund City Hall landscaping, and the alderman from the 4th Ward has asked that those funds be prioritized for a different project. So it seems like a referral to me, but Alderman Palumsky.
Thank you, Mayor. I do remember at some point we have seen like a modified budget that reflects the motions made in the Committee of the Whole meetings. I'm just wondering, I understand where Alderman Toledo is coming from. Is there a way for us to document what our discussion is? So I understand we're not necessarily adding or subtracting from the budget, but I think the understanding is, and should there be support, is that there was the anticipation that, you know, with the, you know, suspension or just holding off on the spend for the First Street landscaping, that it would have just proceeded and we would have seen it at a higher priority this year. What, I guess the question comes, I know it's up to us to decide how to move forward, but is there a way, or what would the recommendation be for us to move forward in a way that shows discussion on this topic and that there is a will, or, you know, if there's an expressed will to move this up? I mean, compared to what we've done in the past. I do remember seeing some updated reflection of, after there's been a motion, what the budget looks like. I don't.
Well, if there's a motion that affects the budget would be amended, and it would be passed as amended. Whatever we discuss right now would go in the minutes, if it's something substantive like this, that there was a discussion regarding this line item, whatever we do. Alderman Mulliner?
I would suggest, I think that, Mayor, you had a very good suggestion, and that is leave the budget as it is and put in a referral just to cover the bases. That way it's taken care of from both angles. The budget's really not going to change in this process. It's just redirecting the funds. And I think if the referral goes in, it just kind of puts the additional added saying, hey, we really want to get this done this way. And I think that's the best and simplest way to do it.
Yeah, and Alderman Toledo, I think I'm in favor of what you're saying anyway. It makes sense. This is not trying to thwart your effort. It's just trying to redirect it to what I think might be better. But, you know, let other aldermen weigh in as well. Alderman Deuter?
And I should have said in my first question, I very much support the idea of improving the landscaping along First Street. I think it's an important project. There's lots of room for beautification in that stretch. So I absolutely appreciate kind of this coming up and the, you know, turning our attention back to it. I guess one question would be, if it's possible for the City Hall project to be funded out of TIF, why were we doing it this way as opposed to I mean, it sounds like a reasonable thing to do, to redirect these dollars and then have it come out of TIF. I'm just wondering if there was a reason it wasn't designated as a TIF expense originally.
As we were putting together the KEB sheet, it was proposed to be funded that way out of general fund. I don't have a better answer for you, Alderman, I'm sorry.
No, I just didn't know if there was a specific intent behind it.
Yeah, it may have to do with revenues into TIF and other priorities in the TIF. I just can't recall, sorry.
And if we were to shift that to a TIF expense, would that need to be a budget?
Well, it would, but that's why it's a little hard to do it on the fly. It's not, it's a pretty big number. But if it went through committee and there was a discussion about how to prioritize it and how it's paid for, it would be a more thorough discussion. You know, Alderman Hill?
Thank you. Just so, and maybe I can kill a couple questions here with one stone, but so when we look at the priority of the KEBs, and not to say that I disagree with the reallocation of these funds, but So was there any rationale as to why this is classified as essential priority, the City Hall landscaping, whereas the First Street was non-essential, but what is it, social, cultural, aesthetically pleasing improvements? So those priorities, I mean, how do those come about?
Yeah, with City Hall being in the location that it is, center of the downtown, it took a higher priority than First Street. We also recognize with First Street, we're going to have to work with the railroad to specify what can be planned and where, and they have some metrics that we need to adhere to. It might be a little more difficult than here where we have full control at City Hall.
Sorry, Alderman Toledo.
Thank you. My question is, when we publish the final budget, do we publish like the J forms for the public?
Yes.
Do we actually publish a final budget, or do we just publish this one and then we publish all those general ledger puts and takes?
What you have in front of you is what we would publish.
And if it's amended, it will be published as amended.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think what I would like to do is do an amendment, because the J form does specifically call, and if we just change the J form, then it's just done, and it doesn't even have to go back and waste the committee's time. If it seems like I have a number of people that are supporting it now anyway, we'll just get it over and done with.
Fair. We can also, if it's a change in that priority, Ryan told me when we publish the carryover form, there's also a column for council adjustments. And so perhaps that would be, if there's a consensus, Mayor, maybe we can do it that way.
But that would be a monetary adjustment. Because really, we're saying the whole point of this whole discussion has been, we're not really changing the cost of the budget. So like, do we do a motion if we're not changing the price?
Well, I don't know that it just has to be a monetary change.
Okay.
We can put in there the line item and then new priority of First Street landscaping versus City Hall landscaping.
Okay, so, Mr. Mayor, at this time, if I might propose a motion to amend the budget. A note, as city manager just discussed, to line 3034, and the J form explanation for that same line item, to change it to and $90,000 for First Street from Geneva to West landscaping improvements.
All right, and just so I can capture what you're doing, I don't think you have to change the budget. I think you're just changing the J form.
Yeah, but other than, I guess that would still get into this list that they're talking about of the changes.
Well, we would publish the budget with if it passes, with the proposed amendment to the J form. So on page 139, it would say, instead of for City Hall landscaping, it would say for First Street landscaping improvements between Geneva and West. Is that what?
Then maybe reference KEB, page 54,
Okay, all right.
that amendment.
All right, so the motion I think we would propose is to amend the J form on page 139 to, after the words 90,000, to read for First Street landscaping improvements between Geneva to West, KEB page 54. Is that?
Yes, thank you.
All right. May I have a second? Is that a second, Alderman Mulliner? All right. Discussion on the amended of the motion to amend. Alderman Bastido.
So Mayor, please tell me if this is not the point to ask about this, but now that we're voting on this, I'm just not familiar with these projects. So can you tell me, I trust that you have good reason for doing one over the other, but can you tell me what we're not doing at City Hall now? What landscaping is not happening now?
Do you want to respond to that, Alderman Toledo, or would you like staff?
I think staff should respond to that.
All right, very good.
Yeah, so we were looking at updating all the landscaping around City Hall. We do have some bushes that need to be pulled out and replanted. So we've lost some trees out front, and so we were looking at basically just re-landscaping around this entire building.
Okay. Can I ask a follow-up question?
Please.
So I must have missed the part. I'm sure there's good reason for why we would rather, it seems like there's consensus around doing first instead. I just haven't heard what that is.
Alderman Toledo.
Yeah, I can respond to that. So for a number of years before the pandemic, I would say in 2017, 18, 19, a number of residents from both First and Fourth Ward that live around or spend a lot of time around the train corridor, the Union Pacific corridor, have complained about the appearance of and the aesthetics, especially on First Street compared to the Park side. The Park Street side is better landscape historically for some reason than the First Street side. So it, specifically in the Fourth Ward, there are a number of what forestry came out and evaluated to be very old, unmanageable bushes. There's lots of volunteer trees. So we would be replacing all of that and then doing additional things all the way along down to West Avenue to enhance the aesthetic look of that side of the train tracks with something that is both safe and appropriate for those different areas along that corridor.
Alderman Bastido.
So that is seen as, I mean, are more people going to see that than City Hall landscaping? Is that why it's a better?
Yeah, it was in the budget. It was cut from the budget. The First Street landscaping was cut from the budget due to COVID. My earlier, I don't know if Alderman Bastido, you weren't here at the time, but my original circle back was also making the argument that City Hall might not be here in a couple of years if we pursue some real estate ideas. So rather than invest that same amount of money in a place that may or may not, it might eventually be something that we want to do, but I would recommend using that dollars to the benefit of the city residents at large that spend any time along First Street versus putting it in here and potentially having things change with this particular location in the next couple of years. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Can I just,
Alderman Deuter.
just a thought, and this is where, I don't know the details behind this project. It's a really long stretch, and $90,000, when you're thinking about landscaping, doesn't go real far, right? So I'm, in terms of knowing exactly what the $90,000 would do, certainly it will be spent on landscaping improvements between those areas if this is the direction we go. But I guess I would, in terms of setting expectations, I don't know what it would be. I don't know if it's replacing all of what's there or adding new. I would expect that staff does kind of a review, and I know we heard the comment talking about what we're able to do based on UP's restrictions and what they would, what type of landscaping they allow, right? So it's a discussion, and I assume if this were to move forward, it would be staff would bring forward a proposal for a review, and that would be the time to discuss really what gets done with these dollars.
That's correct.
UP or whoever owns it, but Alderman Brennan.
So, I'm in support of what we're trying to accomplish here. That said, I have further questions on, if we amend the J form and reference a KEB that's now not correct, so both KEBs would need to be corrected to reflect what we're saying here, I would assume. Or is the KEB just a administrative document that's...
Yeah, the KEB is more of a planning document, so I wouldn't worry about amending
Okay,
that.
so
It's 2
with
years
that
out.
in mind, I'm fine. I retract my question. So I'm in support of what we're proposing.
Good question. Additional discussion on the motion to amend? All right, it appears there's not. Clerk Tamer, call the roll. So we're voting on the motion to amend the J form on page 139 to read at the end and $90,000 for First Street landscaping improvements between Geneva and West, KEB page 54. All right, everyone understands? Then we'll proceed. Clerk Tamer.
Nudera?
Aye.
Park?
Aye.
Conquest?
Aye.
Bastido?
Aye.
Mulliner?
Aye.
Brennan?
Aye.
Verimas?
Aye.
Deuter?
Aye.
Dunn,
Aye.
Hill,
Aye.
Palumski,
Aye.
Jensen,
Aye.
Toledo,
Aye.
Aye.
Cahill, 14 ayes, 0 nays.
14 ayes, 0 nays. The motion passes and will become part of the budget. Do you have additional concerns on that? Circle back, Alderman
No.
Toledo.
Thank
Anyone
you.
else? All right. That is the end of our formal, wait,
No,
Nope,
there's
no.
one more.
one more, with a picture, so I don't know how I
Oh,
missed
there
that one.
Fine with it, just go ahead.
Anyone else have a question on the clear cone that's on number 15?
I like it.
All right. All right, so those are the requests for circle back. Does anyone have any other questions on the budget? City Treasurer.
I'm sorry, when Alderman Brennan asked about who's God in the KEB budget relationship, I did have one question with respect to stormwater funding. KEB page 96 references a $325,000 expenditure, and that is not on the budget, so maybe this is just a, KEB is not the budget. I just want to ask that.
325, you're looking at the 2022 expenditure?
Correct. So if you look at the pages before this, we got our 400K engineering expense, which that's in the budget, and then there's page 94, page 93, page 92, and page 91. The sum of those construction expenses go to the budget, but the 325 does not get back there.
City Manager?
Sorry.
We did end up pushing that project, that all 5 of those out of one year,
You get a finder's fee on that. All right.
10%.
Right, any other questions on the budget? All right, then I think our next step is to get the budget as amended ready for action by the City Council. All right, so the only thing I have left on my agenda is adjournment. Alderman Mulliner, second by Alderman Brennan. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. We're adjourned. Thank you.